Welcome to Used Car News Podcast. Used Car News is your top source for fast and reliable news that car dealers can rely on for the evolving industry. Here are this month's top stories. The 2022 Detroit Auto Show returned after a 2-year hiatus. An agent with the National Insurance Crime Bureau offers tips on how to de-escalate tension in the workplace. And a topsy-turvy financial market has many folks coming back to used cars. But first, we sit down with Bob McConkey, president of the McConkey Auction Group.
Hello, this is Jeffrey Bellant. I'm managing editor of Used Car News, and this is our Used Car News podcast. And today we have a great guest. Most people in the industry know him in the auction industry. It's Bob McConkey, president of the McConkey Auction Group. Bob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jeff. Good morning.
Excellent. Good morning. And tell us again, for people who don't know you, the couple of people who don't know you, where are you guys at?
So we are in the Northwest. That's our market primarily. Our main facility that houses our staff for all of our auctions is in Spokane. That's where I'm sitting today. I'm in Spokane. That's kind of where we got it started. We now have sales in Las Vegas as well as in Seattle.
Excellent. And tell us how your family, when your family got started in the auction business?
Well, we have a long history in the business going back to my dad, who in 1954, along with 3 other partners, founded what was South Seattle Auto Auction, now Mannheim, Seattle. And so my brother and I got involved in that business in the late 70s. And I came in 1979 at 18 years old.
Oh my God.
So I've been in it a long time. We sold our business in 1985. My father did to GE Capital, and my brother and I went to work for them. I went down to Los Angeles as the GE Capital auction chain started to grow. We became involved in that. I moved to Los Angeles and ran what is now Mannheim, Southern California.
Holy cow.
During the 80s. And then I got out of it for a while, moved back to the Northwest, and then decided, so there's kind of a break in the generational thing where in many respects, I'm second generation. This auction is not. It is a startup from first generation, which is us now moving forward.
Excellent. And now you guys at a certain time, now your dad was a NAAA pioneer and all that. Now you're starting, again, like you say, kind of a first generation auction. Over the years now, you've built that up, and now you've kind of consolidated into McConkey Auction Group. What is McConkey Auction Group?
Well, I was actually hesitant to use that as the name. I didn't. Our marketing people felt like that was an important part of our brand, and we started to get a little convoluted. We have had sales in different parts of the country over time. We were in El Paso, Texas. Our first expansion was into Tri-Cities, and which is just south of us here. And then we went into El Paso, Texas. We went into Kansas City. And as we grew this kind of national brand, it became evident that we needed a national presence. And so it was decided that we would brand around the McConkey Auction Group, because Kansas City was KCI, and El Paso was EPI, and we were DAA. And as we started to really look at the commercial accounts, we felt like we needed a brand. And I think beyond that, now that we're so much involved in the internet, we actually have what we consider 4 auctions, because we have 3 physical auctions in Vegas, Seattle, and Spokane, but we also have our eBlock app, which we call Mag Now for the Northwest, and we consider that as a 4th auction. So all of those, along with our auto body centers and mechanical facilities that serve the retail as well as the wholesale, we just felt like we needed to brand it all under one kind of umbrella. And so we call it MAG, McConkey Auction Group.
And you mentioned eBlock. That's one of the newer things, relatively new for you. You're part of your guys. So tell us about eBlock.
So eBlock was a relationship that I started up about 3.5 years ago. They are out of Toronto. eBlock was an internet auction startup that actually came out of a website application. Retail facing websites for car dealers was what e-dealer was the original kind of startup, and then it evolved in because they sensed a need up in Canada for a true online auction to compete with TradeRev in Canada. And so I had been in a long search over many years, including, all of our efforts with the auction pipeline and what is now Auction Edge, to really, for us, find, and for independents in general, just to try to find that true upstream or, pure internet sale. So I developed a relationship with them, and we started talking about a U.S. expansion. And that led us to beta test in the Northwest, U.S. expansion that started in the Northwest, and then through a partnership that I had with what was called ABS Auctions, ABS Auto Auctions in Los Angeles. We've expanded to the West Coast, and now we're expanding through both acquisition and through pure online, expansion into different parts of the country in the U.S. And so it's been great for us. We in the Northwest have our own territory, which is Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, with eBlock that we brand as Mag now under our own management, and it's been great for us. We're selling 150 to 200 cars every week on the site right now. These are all cars that for me are really incremental business. We're finding that the dealers that are really committed to digital are committed to digital, and based on the relationship that we have had with them and the reputation we have with them, they tend to choose our digital platform over others. And so it's been great. I serve on the board of eBlock, and so I'm very much involved in the strategy beyond what goes on in the Northwest. And it's just been great for me to I spent a long time trying to figure out what to do. Now I know what I'm going to do. Now I just got to figure out how to do it. But I found my partnership, and I found my tool, and now it's just a matter of expanding it. We all know digital is here to stay and continuing to evolve, and we feel like for us to stay relevant and to really be relevant not only to the national community of remarketers, but to the dealers, that the digital platform is huge for us. So we're all in on it, and we feel like meeting the customer where they're at is what we're really all about. And we don't just say it, we mean it. So we don't really care how we sell a car. We're finding that introducing the digital platform to people, getting some cars sold on that, and then transitioning them to the auction, really truly for the dealers, an upstream program that follows suit right down to the auction to make sure that we offer all the different options to get a car sold. It's working good for us, Jeff.
Yeah, especially being on the West Coast here, you obviously introduce yourselves to a lot of other people. I think that's been the big thing for digital, is that, auctions. I was just talking to Jake Gertz over Montana, and you're kind of isolated out there. And so to be able to connect with people way outside your market is good. I want to ask you about that. I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking about Auction Edge. You guys were way ahead of the game. So when the pandemic hit, when people were shut down, you're on the West Coast, so I assume you guys had some strict lockdowns. You were ready to sell online. You were already selling online. How did that work out?
So you're right. In the state of Washington, which was really unique beyond almost any other state, we were auto in general, retail and wholesale was deemed as non-essential. So for the first 90 days, we had, we're 30 miles from Idaho, and we had Coeur d'Alene, Idaho dealers selling cars like crazy, a lot of them to Washington dealers, and the Washington dealers were shut down and in fact fined if they were, basically caught selling a car. So it was really, really onerous for us. So we were literally closed. All we did is hire essential staff to take in inventory. As you know, everybody thought the world was going to end, so they all turned back their rental cars,
right.
Fixed cars, and so our inventory swelled and we couldn't sell. So we went to maximum capacity over the first 90 days, and then when we were deemed that we were essential, it came with restrictions. It said we couldn't gather inside at all. We couldn't have more than 25 people gather anywhere for anything. And so we basically just went completely online. A combination of eBlock, which was brand new at the time and not really getting a lot of traction, and through our simulcast platform, we did what a lot of basically what Mannheim and Odessa did. We were forced to do it. It wasn't a choice for us, but we spent 12 months before we were able to invite dealers into the lane. So for 12 months, we basically put cars, inspected cars, had auctioneers, very eerie, just an auctioneer and a clerk and nobody else around, and just setting the cars in low and letting people bid on them. And as the market took off, we sold between Las Vegas never completely shut down, but Seattle and Spokane, between Seattle and Spokane, we sold over 50,000 cars without a dealer in the lane or a car running through the lane for 12 months. And our customers understood what we were up against. We didn't lose any customers. We didn't lose any fleet business. We had really massive sales. We had sales in the height of the market upswing that were in the 90s as far as percentage. You talk about conversion rate. We had several sales above 90%. Completely online with nothing but the internet just going nuts. And you couldn't do what you do normally as an auctioneer. You just had to set them in low and let them bid, and the market was rising so quickly that we just reached floor and we got everything sold. It was the most dramatic thing I've ever seen. I hope we never see it again.
Right.
But when we were shut down, I really wondered if this was it. We had 480 people on staff. We laid off 450 of them, made sure they all got unemployment. We ensured them that they would come back, and we got them all back eventually when we opened up. But for 90 to 120 days, we basically ran on a skeleton crew and then started hiring people back. And like I said, it was I thought the world was going to end. I think a lot of people did. And then when the market lit up, I don't think anybody would have predicted what would have happened in the market. It was a perfect storm.
No, sir, that's right. That's true. It's funny you talk about that kind of small opening. I was talking to David all over at North Bay, and it didn't even hit me that he had kind of the same situation there in California, where they opened him up and they said, we'll allow you 50 people. And he's like, do I open up and tell half my bidders that they can't come? I mean, how do you choose that? So he did the same thing where he basically said, we'll just not open up until we can let people in, or not open up physically until we can let people in. So that's a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
And now, so you talk about the digital, and you have your three sons, correct, that are involved in the business?
Yep, I do.
And what are their roles?
So, we are a family business, but we also, you learn over time. I've had the goal since the beginning that if it was their choice, that they would come into the business, and so I was kind of in many respects robbed of a secondary education. 1980s when I came into the business. It was based on the fact that our business was really in trouble. If you remember, 21% interest, and our little auction was in trouble. So I was really, in many respects, just asked that, hey, now's the time to come into the business. And so I did. With my kids, even though I started talking to them about it when they were young, I always prefaced it that it was their choice. I told them, this is a great way to make a living. It's a great way to serve the community. But you can do whatever you want. The only thing you can't do is, be a ski instructor in Vail and have me send you money to supplement. That's the only thing you can't do. Other than that, whatever you want to do, you do it. And so they all went through college, and then they, which was part of the deal, was to really go out and build a resume outside of the business and think about whether or not they wanted to get in the business. So it was a real process.
Wow.
One of my sons was a worship leader, and he was an executive pastor for a church for a while. One of my sons was in human resources for Nordstrom's, and one of my sons was in search engine optimization for Bing, part of Microsoft.
Holy cow! No, what do they need McConkey Auction Group for?
Well, they all went through a process of I think, gaining self-esteem and confidence that they could build a resume and do well, and then slowly they all started to come back in to the business. Aaron, my oldest son, spent a decade with Auction Edge. He was head of product for Auction Edge until just recently when he came to work for us a couple of years ago. He is now, we have a lot of internal technology that we develop to integrate with the technology that we utilize from vendors, and we build our own CRM products, and we build a lot of integrations and reporting for ourselves internally, and he leads that. He's really a good technologist, and he leads that entire part of the organization. And my middle son, Brian is basically, we have, like, as I mentioned, we have 4 auctions. One of them is Mag Now, which is our e-block application. And he is, in essence, he's the general manager for our digital product of e-block. And so he manages that system. My youngest son, Colin, is the general manager of the auction here in Spokane. So 2 of the kids live in Seattle. One of them manages the Spokane location. And David Pendergraph, who I think is, he is the COO. And so the way we're structured is basically that we don't want to be this dysfunctional family business. We want to be a real business, and we know what our roles are. And so at this point, David reports to our family on the corporate matters, but on the day-to-day, my kids report to David. David runs the business and reports to me. And this is all done very, very specifically and intentionally and completely aligned with what the skill sets are and what the maturation rate of my kids is. And it's well beyond just the 3 sons and David. We have an entire slew of 30 somethings that succession planning has probably been the biggest agenda item for me over the last 7 to 10 years. I've been adamant that we really do want to, if you don't have a plan, then it normally won't work out. And we didn't want to be in a position where we were in a position where if I wasn't around, that the business would need to be sold or wouldn't be successful. So I've been really working on this for years and years and years. So we're in a process of the really strong legacy people that have been with me for 30 years are transitioning out over time, and this whole new slew of people are coming in with great ideas, fresh perspective, aggressive ways of how to approach the business, blended with the legacy people that are fully on board. So it's been very intentional, and the kids are a big part of it, but they're not all of it. It's really it's about the next generation in a much broader swath than just my kids.
Wow, that is great. That is a great story. And it's great that your kids got all these skills and talents, and now they can use them in the business. That's excellent. And then, one of the big things that everybody knows, not to bring it way down, one of the big things that everybody knows about DA Northwest is your famous rock and roll sale that you have every summer. How did that get started? Because everybody knows about it.
Well, it started. So we started in Spokane on 5 acres. We never really had, I didn't. Everybody asked, how did you do this? And I always say, I have no idea how it happened, how we got big where we can sell 50,000 cars in Spokane, but we started on 5 acres with 9 employees, and we started to grow, and we felt like we were onto something. We expanded our rented facility to 12 acres in 1994, and we continued to grow. And in 95, I decided that it looked as if Greg Mayhew was my partner at the time. We really looked at it and said, we think we've got something here that we can, but we need a facility. We were really just in a little barn. And so we went out and we bought land. We bought 60 acres. We developed 21 acres. We developed a 5-lane facility with a recon shop, and we built what is still today DAA Northwest. And when we did that, we knew that we needed to, as part of our grand opening, that we needed to do something really unique to let people know that we were here. And so, promotions have always been part of our DNA. And so we started to scratch our head and think about what we could do that would really be radical. And so we decided we would have a concert for our grand opening, and that it would be a one-time deal. It never had any potential in my mind to go beyond one time. So, we announced that Jerry Lee Lewis is going to be in Spokane at DAA Northwest on a Wednesday night to throw a party to commemorate this new facility. Come check out the facility, have a great time. And we had probably, I bet we had 600-700 people show up, and Jerry Lee Lewis performed. And what happened was, we were running, probably 600-700 cars a week at the time at the most. And all of a sudden, we had 1,500 cars show up, and then we had all these people show up, and we're having just this amazing sale. And as I'm walking through the lanes, talking to customers, so many of them said, "That was amazing last night. Who are you going to have next year?" And then somebody else, "Who are you going to have next year?" And then I'm not really sharp, but when 10 people ask you who you're going to have next year, and you're having a 70% sale with triple your normal volume, you start thinking, maybe I ought to do this next year. And so,
yes, Bob is genius.
Yeah, Bob's genius
all
comes
along.
through. Yeah, got hit in the head with it enough times where it's like, okay, I think we got to do this next year. And so we did, and it got bigger. Jerry Lee Lewis was our first one, and then we came right back with Chuck Berry. So
nice.
And now here we are, 26 years into it or whatever, and it has become quite an event. And we've always known about promotions. Promotions have been part of our DNA. The moose sale that was started at South Seattle Auto Auction by my dad was kind of the original promotion that really did bring some volume in the old days. It was always the biggest sale of the year for our
What was the moose sale?
So the moose sale, the original promotion, 1954. My dad loved to hunt, and it was his first year in business, and he got the idea that if he went up and shot a moose, and he fed part of it to the dealers, that he could write it off. And so he did, and a bunch more cars showed up, and everybody thought it was great. It's like, let's serve moose to the dealers, and we've been doing it ever since. And so that was the original promotion, and then we started to build on that. And we've always known that auctions do promotions, and in many cases what happens is they make a big splash, they don't ramp up for it, they create a bad customer experience because they've got too many cars and too many people, and they're not prepared. And everybody, says that comes, I'll never go to their promotion again. I'll never do that again. It was a miserable experience. So we've always known that in order to do this, that you have to really ramp up to create a great experience for the customer while you have more volume. And that's been our secret all along. And we have used our promotional events we've used over the years to really build on our volume. When we had our first moose sale in 1993, our volume doubled, and then we said, okay, if we can, run 800 cars once, then we can run 800 cars every week. We know 800 cars are out there. And so we developed these promotions to kind of create new benchmarks for what our volume can be. And that's how we've done it for 30 years. And even before that with my dad.
The 2022 Detroit Auto Show returned to the Motor City after a 2-year pandemic hiatus and offered a new indoor-outdoor experience. The show moved from a traditional January event to September to take advantage of the city's waterfront and other attractions. The new look show had plenty of internal combustion muscle along with state-of-the-art electric vehicles. The indoor show offered chances to drive on the Camp Jeep test track. The experience took drivers slowly through a course where they drove through various off-road features such as sideways up an embankment, then over a couple of other obstacles, and then up and down a roller coaster steep hill at a 45-degree angle. Bronco Mountain was a Ford ride and drive experience which allowed attendees to drive either a Bronco, Mach-E, or Lightning, depending on where they stood in the queue. There was also a separate Ford F-150 Lightning ride offering. In another part of the exhibit, an off-road display featured T-Rex, Velociraptor, and Stegosaurus dinosaurs. More than 80 dinosaurs, some more than 28 feet tall, helped draw attention at the event. The exhibit also offered a chance to see the car featured in the Flintstones movie based on the classic cartoon. An agent with the National Insurance Crime Bureau said simple verbal de-escalation techniques can prevent miscommunication, discontent, or violence in the workplace. Gus Hitz, who spoke at the National Auto Auction Association Convention and Expo here, spent 26 years in law enforcement before joining the NICB. As a supervisory special agent, Hitz's territory includes Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota. He works auto theft and insurance fraud cases with law enforcement. Hitz has also taught classes to law enforcement. One of the classes he taught to law enforcement was overcoming verbal non-compliance and de-escalating situations. The key is how to communicate with someone, even if they're really upset, and get them to a place where they can accept it and move on. Looking for nonverbal behavior showing tension is important, especially things like change in the tone of voice. Nonverbal cues that are also important are signs of drug or alcohol use, such as noting the scent of alcohol on the person. Experian's State of the Automotive Financial Market Q2 showed some interesting trends ranging from used loan values and terms to shifting patterns by consumers trying to find financing for the right vehicle. Melinda Zabritsky, Experience Director of Product Management, said the report showed that consumers are shifting back to finance used cars at increasing rates. In other words, they're moving from new to used. Zabritsky said leading up to the pandemic, Experience saw a definite shift in prime and super prime consumers who were increasingly purchasing used vehicles and moving away from new vehicles. It was only in the last quarter, Q2 this year, that Experience saw a return to used cars from prime and super prime consumers. Sometimes those purchases also could be adding a vehicle to the family or buying a car for a child who's going away to school. Experience shows the average used loan amount ranges from $20,311 in the deep subprime category up to more than $30,000 in the prime. Thanks for listening to Used Car News Podcast. Each month we'll bring you fast and reliable news that car dealers can rely on for this evolving industry. For a free subscription to Used Car News, please visit usedcarnews.com. This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. Make sure to share us on social media and like and follow wherever you get your podcasts. Darren Sutherland, Executive Producer. Jacob Sutherland, Director. Producers Jason Gentarola and Matt Golden. All rights reserved.